So, today's talk is feeling lost, lazy, uninterested, and depressed after awakening. What to do? So, like I said the other day in a talk, that awakening means so many different things for different people. And there's seemingly different stages to awakening. And one of the awakenings which happens, which then it's very common afterwards, you feel lost or lazy or depressed or uninterested in life. And that is more the awakening where you recognize consciousness, so where the person recognizes consciousness. So there's some form of the personal awareness, and the mind is turning around and recognizing that something is being aware of life and of the person, so the person isn't aware. And this is more an intellectual awakening, although in it there will have been a clarity that's beyond the intellect, but it's not the energetic shift like I talk about, where you expand into everything, where consciousness and being meet Sat Chit Ananda, and then there is bliss. This is normally one of the initial awakenings, and I would say it's more the emptiness awakening rather than love awakening. But in it, there is an experience where you've gone beyond the mind, but it's more the mind that knows it, and the thought that knows it, and the person that knows it. So this is the point where the person knows that it's awareness. And that is a really profound awakening, but often what happens afterwards is because there isn't the energetic shift and the love awakening, and because the person's still there is still the seeking mechanisms happening. So there is still meing or person happening. And that person now knows that happiness and freedom isn't found in life. It's not found in something I do. And this is where the laziness, uninterestedness, depressedness, and lostness come. Because there's been the glimpse, the person now knows it's not the person, that the person isn't a reality, that the person isn't them. But the seeking is continuing, but there's also this added information that nothing I seek for will give me what I'm truly looking for. There's some form of knowing that what it's truly looking for is itself. It's not found out there. And this can be a really painful, depressing period. It can bring up immense existential angst and feeling of worthlessness, feeling, what's that word? Like without meaning. So there is no inspiration left to create or do a life. So that's why it happens. Not all the time. There's so many different paths. There's many paths as there is people. So, but that's a commonality that I see in people awakening, is they have this more intellectual awakening, which also contains a true awakening, but it's more of a mental thing. There's the recognition that nothing in life will give me what I'm truly looking for, and there's still seeking happening, but the seeking doesn't get satisfied. So you get a new lover and it really isn't that satisfying anymore. If in the past you had changed girlfriends or boyfriends and that had given you real highs in the past, it doesn't give you quite such a high anymore, or eating, or the idea of creating a lifestyle of being richer than everyone else around you or having more possessions just doesn't quite do it. It just seems shallow and meaningless. So then the seeking's got nowhere to go. You've still got the urge to seek, but the seeking doesn't have something to hang on to. There's nothing I can imagine. Prior, when there was just asleepness, there was the total belief in what it did. So even though what it was doing wasn't working and created a lot of suffering, it totally believed if it got the house, if it got enough money, it would have peace. And so therefore there was lots of energy that would go into that. So the seeking had a lot of direction. Oh, I've got to get it in the house. I've got to get it in the kids. I've got to get it in the husband. So it had direction. It had momentum. When that begins to go, then there is no momentum. And this is particularly difficult if you're just starting out your life. So if you're in your late teens or early 20s and you have an awakening and you're expected to start a life, but yet there's no direction. And that can be particularly difficult. If you lived in more Hindu or Buddhist culture, then there is more of an acceptance and understanding of this. So there's more of a direction that you can take. You can take a direction towards the spiritual. And that is a very valid life, whereas in the West, there is no option for that. You could become a nun or monk, but it's so different. Yeah. So then what to do about this? So what I would recommend, but everybody has their unique path that they have to traverse. But what I would recommend is focusing on bringing God more and more in your life and letting that be your path. So in the past, it was about money or success, or maybe even about enlightenment, you becoming enlightened, and even that dream's being popped. But what I would do if you're, beginning to feel depressed, lost, and lazy, is bring God into your life. And what I mean by that is surround yourself of things that remind you of the divine, not as to get somewhere, not to become enlightened, not to become awakened. That's all story. That's not really surrounding yourself with God. That's story. It's just that which reminds you of God. Bring it closer to your life. And this will help evoke the love part, the compassion part. So an example of that is bhajans or kirtan. Like in your house, you can buy pictures that remind you of this subject. In your friendships, creating friendships which can reflect back this subject. Listening to music or art which inspires you in that way. So it's not about you getting to something. It's not about the old seeking story of me becoming something. It's bringing this subject closer, but in a very subtle way, bringing God closer to you. But not in a way where it's like, I'm going to then become enlightened, because that's a story. That's not really surrounding yourself with God. It's doing it more subtly. So your whole life becomes, in a way, a devotion to this subject. Not for you to arrive, not for you to get something, but out of a sense of devotion, out of a sense of love. There has been that awakening. There's a recognition that awareness or big consciousness is prior to you. And it's like, okay, whether this happens in this lifetime or not, even though that's illusory, but this is what you tell yourself, I'm just going to surround myself with the divine. I'm going to bring it closer to me. And whatever happens, happens. I leave it in God's hands. And so this is a direction to go into. And it's also like a direction of love. So it's like the antidote, the opposite to lost, lazy, uninteresting, and depressed. It's the opposite. So that would be my recommendation. The next recommendation that I'd have is work with somebody one-to-one that you trust and explore the uninterested, laziness, and depression. Like, so explore the seeds of it, like where it comes from, because it will have been there in your life before, like a hopelessness, but it have been covered up by the seeking. So explore those thought systems and where they are in the body. So explore that shadow, like what's happening in the body. And you can do that simultaneously as bringing God closer to you. It's like doing an hour or 2 hours a week with somebody to really have a good conceptual understanding of why that's arising, connect it to the apparent story, and seeing it's not true, and then also releasing it, like finding ways to release that energy and those stories from the body. So your mind and body are one thing, so what you think your body holds. So it's like getting the body to move in another way. So those would be my recommendation. Bring God closer. Let God be the navigator. So you navigate your life by what's bringing God closer. Is this job bringing God closer? Or is this relationship bringing God closer? And then exploring it with somebody that you trust, the lies and the deceptions that you're telling yourself that are maybe unconscious. Yeah, so that's the end for YouTube. If you want to join these talks, then you can go to my website and join the live stream channel, and then you will have access in Telegram to these links to join the talks and then to ask questions where they're not recorded. Yeah, thank you.